Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you today and very grateful for this platform that connects each one of us to new opportunities. My name is Jana Masik. I'm the host of this LinkedIn Live broadcast, Powering Unique You. And today I am thrilled to have a conversation with my wonderful friend, Dr. Pat Baxter. Hello, Pat.
Hello, Jana. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thank you.
And for those of you that may not know Dr. Pat Baxter, she's just amazing. She's been in the corporate industry for over 25 years. And she's done a lot of work in finances, in IT, in customer service, and served as a senior talent management leader in several companies. She has wonderful credentials, and I would love for you, Pat, to please tell us your journey, share with us some of the experiences you've had, and also share with us what exciting things you're doing right now.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. I am equally, if not more, thrilled to be here. My journey has started in New York City, where my parents came when they were first married. My parents are Puertorriqueño, they are Puerto Rican, and I grew up in New York City, pretty much Lower East Side. And all my education took place in New York City, the City University, for example, in Manhattan and Queens. Then I became my bachelor's was in education, so I became a teacher in the third grade in as a bilingual teacher, and taught in the South Bronx and Central Harlem, some of the challenging places in our city where teachers were needed. I did that for almost 10 years, and then I got recruited to the corporate America, which, as you said, I've been in corporate America for about 25 years. And in that adventure, I have done the kind of work I do, which is bringing the human element into business all over the world, in Asia, South America, and Europe, and of course in the United States. And it's been quite a ride.
Wonderful. This is wonderful, Pat. And today's conversation, very timely for these times. It's about emotional intelligence, and also what is the emotional intelligence, and how can we use this to be the calm in a storm? I would love for you to please, with your experience and your expertise on emotional intelligence, to tell us what is this exactly, and why does emotional intelligence matter?
Well, emotional intelligence is not a single thing. It's a set of skills. It's a set of awareness and ability to be able to tune in to your own self. What are you feeling? What is causing you any distress, or what is causing you joy? And it's really interesting when you begin to study emotions in people. There have been many studies that said anything from we have only 8 emotions to 27 emotions, and that's the latest number that the researchers have come up with. But the point is, we have emotions. That is one thing that all of us have. Some of us show them differently, and to greater depths.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have them. And I know when we walk into our offices or into wherever we are working, we're bringing those emotions with us. And frankly, I think we have to honor them, because that's how we're connected as people.
Give me 1 second. Something's happening with my computer right now. I just want to make sure we don't get disconnected. This is a technical. Here you go. It's getting down. So I want to make sure my computer doesn't play tricks on us.
Sure.
Thank
You're
you
the
so much.
expert for that.
We're live, so live things happening live all the time. So, Pat, this is really good. What you mentioned about emotions is that we all have different emotions, right? We all identify them differently, and we also convey our emotions differently. And as we talk about emotions, I feel my experience and my observation, and I would love for you to hear your take on that, is that we sometimes suppress the emotions. We have these emotions are having like feelings in our bodies, but we sometimes when we're fearful or when we're scared, sometimes negative emotions or uncertainty, especially a lot of us may be feeling right now in this time, we tend to suppress them. What are your takes on this? What your advice would be when we're feeling those type of emotions?
Well, one thing I believe about emotional intelligence is it begins and it ends with awareness,
Mm-hmm.
tuning into yourself. But even more than that, one of the things that, when I was getting my doctorate, it was in organizational leadership. And I've seen all kinds of leaders along the way. And one of the things that I learned during those studies is that we are equipped in our brains for emotions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small part of our brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala is our, frankly, fear center.
Mm-hmm.
It's what gets triggered very easily when we feel a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around us every day in the 21st century, there's a threat somehow, some way to someone. So being aware that we are equipped to look around and determine, are we in danger? Is my family in danger? And take action for it. So, and also know that our brains are constantly spewing out hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are good hormones. They give us joy and peace. It's
Joy.
like,
Yes.
if you've been a mother, you hold your baby
Yes.
and you feel something so deep
Mm.
that that's hormones. It's
Yes.
part of how we are equipped to take care of our own. And then there's the anger, then there's the fear. I would recommend for everyone to look at the Disney film, and I hope everyone's seen it, Inside Out, with the five basic emotions and how they interact with each other. It's a cartoon, yes, but it is a good representation of what happens in our brains when either we are feeling, exquisitely joyful or we're so frightened. So that's one thing we need to be aware of. What's
Mm-hmm.
happening in here gets expressed somehow.
Yes. So it's good first step, as you has just beautifully explained right now. First step, it's being aware, having this awareness, right? And it comes and ties in with self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that it is brain processing, it is hormone processing, it's a chemical process within the body, and now that you have written a lot about emotional. I know you're studied and you're now teaching a lot about emotional intelligence. Now, how does what advice would you give to us and our viewers and listeners right now that may be impacted and most likely impacted, you know, by this emotional, even I would say chemistry cocktail in a way, right?
Yeah.
What would be your advice? How to manage all of this now that we're aware of it? What steps can we take to maybe self-regulate or get ourselves out of the damaged emotions kind of pressing upon us?
Here's the great news. Here's the wonderful news. The wonderful and great news is you have control. You just have to figure out what tools work for you. And the tools could be anything from, like, one of the things I do when I feel myself getting worked up is I stop, take a breath. Sometimes I have excused myself from the environment because it's only going to rev up. It's only going to turn up the heat if I stay. And sometimes it's just a matter of, excuse me, I'm going to go get a drink of water. All right. And I'll let you in on something I've done in the past. Just to get out of a really difficult, challenging situation, I have said to people in a meeting, I had some bad sushi, so I've got to run, and nobody will stop you. Nobody will stop you. It's that awareness that something is building up, and we have to consider the environment. Who's in the environment? Who are you talking with? I know of sometimes we lose it. As a matter of fact, I've written a whole chapter about that. I've presented on what happens when we lose it. And the thing I always say is we can recover. We can not only, cut it down, the intensity down, but we can recover. And that might take, again, walking away for a moment, taking a deep breath, taking a sip of water, something to stop that building, crescendo of emotions. So we have some control, and there are lots of tools. And that's one of the things that I coach a lot of people on. How do you, and I call it this, how do you adjust your emotional thermostat? How do you keep it from boiling over? Knowing enough about how your body works, how your brain works, how the hormones, the different hormones work on you is a position of power. And realizing that you do have some control gives you control. And you do have a choice. Does that mean that you don't lose it? Depends. It depends. But when it happens, realize what's happened. If necessary, apologize to the other person. And then, remove yourself from the environment and come back when you've come down a few notches. That's what I always recommend. I unfortunately, I've seen leaders really lose it. And one of the things they lose along with their temper is they lose the respect of their team.
Yes. This is very, very powerful, Pat. I am just taking on all of your wisdom and processing that important information, and especially when we talk about work situation, right? There is a lot of stress sometimes. There's a lot of things that may not be within our control. And right now, how do we convey this with the COVID, and how do we convey this? I would like us to go outside, Solomon. You need to go outside too, guys. You need to go outside. I have a call right now. Okay, thank you. I'll see you later. This is live media. This is what happens nowadays. I would like for you to go to bed. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I need to finish this. Thank you, darling. Thank you. So here's your live COVID-19 video where we have it.
And you handled it beautifully.
Okay, thank you, sweetheart. So yes,
can I make an observation?
Yes.
Can I make an observation?
Yes.
Here's another tool. As a matter of fact, I was just talking with someone yesterday about it. Your tone of voice. Your voice is so powerful, because I can tell if you listen to my voice and I listen to yours, I can tell if you're like on the edge or if you're taking it moment to moment and you're choosing your words. And my mother was right. Please and thank you help a lot. And I heard you said that. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Pat. I love the first time when I met you and we had a conversation. I can say your at the atmosphere that you portray and your presence, just being present and truly in tune listening. You have this unique skill set that I absolutely admire. And I feel like we were just chatting before this conversation went live that I feel you have so much in your toolbox. You have mastered so much that we need to have a series of conversation to tap into all of the tools, all of the amazing tools that you have. And I know that you also, this is what you do, you coach, you provide the services to leaders. And I know your passion is empowering women to be
Yes.
more emotionally self-aware. And ultimately, that control, realizing that, yes, there are things that are outside of our control, like a child walking in the middle of a live video. We cannot control that, but we can control our response and our reaction. And you
That's
touched on that, realizing there are certain things we can control, how we position yourself, right? The choices that we make. And also that, thermostat that you mentioned, feeling where are you, how are you from within, how are you feeling from within, and don't when you start getting to this boiling point, almost have a trigger to say, I cannot go over, I cannot explode. And it can be very damaging, specifically for leaders and managers in a professional setting. And also it can be very damaging when we're at home. Sometimes at home with our families, we're a little bit more relaxed, right? We're not as composed, so to say. And it's good to learn that skill set. I feel it's transferable whether we are in a professional setting or we home
yeah.
with loved ones.
Yeah. As long as you're dealing with humans, it's transferable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's wonderful. And the steps you mentioned that you do have a couple steps. So what are the steps that we can take? You mentioned few, breathing, stepping outside of the situation, realizing your thermostat, being forgiving to yourself, and also apologizing to others if you feel that your emotions went overboard. Is there any other important steps that you believe would be of value to those who are watching and listening this podcast?
One of the things, and this is something that I have observed with myself, tuning into your body and determining, am I starting to get tense? Do I feel
Mm-hmm.
my face turning red? Do I feel my stomach, tightening up?
Yeah.
Oh, those are your signs. Those
Yeah.
are your signs. And when that happens, you have an opportunity, usually, you have an opportunity to break away, take deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Always have that water within
Mm-hmm.
arm's reach. And you go, excuse me, I got to get a little water. That gives you maybe just a few seconds, but it gives you an opportunity to recover.
Yes.
And that has been a big boost for me personally. Tuning into my body. Where am I feeling the tension? Where am I feeling the dread?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all had that feeling of you're called to your boss's office stomach. That's usually
Yes.
where mine
Yes.
resides.
Yes.
And there's uh, a part of our body, and I've been doing a lot of reading about this, the vagus nerve. It runs from our head all the way through our body.
Mm.
And there's some research that says that breathing is the fastest way to allow that nerve to calm down.
Mm.
And honestly, I'm not a neuroscientist. I've learned in my trainings, but I think that is amazing. We have bodies that are equipped with things that can help us and harm us.
Yes.
So that's why I always keep going back to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all had those moments where our palms are sweating, or
Yeah.
armpits are sweating,
Yes.
and we need to tune into that and have a strategy, have a, if not a strategy, a tactic
Mm-hmm.
for dealing with it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Uh, these are simple. Pat, what I love about your approach and how you present things, they're simple and they're also actionable, right? And because there are similarities as humans, we have similarities. We have a lot of similarities, but there's also unique things. So
Mm.
maybe the way I hear frustration and anxiety may be certain way in my body that may be different for you, and we can tune in, like just like what you said, tuning into recognizing in our bodies, right? And being aware, the self-awareness that where we've started with explaining, what is that being emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware, tuning into our bodies and finding the tactics that work for us. And for me personally, I can share my journey is really the stress on my shoulders. Sometimes that I am so composed, I'm so, let's get this done, let's get this done, let's get this done. And I'm on this go, 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 go for the entire day. And at the end of the day, I just feel I have like bricks on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And this is a sign for me that maybe I have to consciously stop in the middle of the day and give myself maybe 5 minutes to just decompress,
That's
breathe
right.
and just meditate, pray, whatever works, and relieve that stress, relieve that emotional, built up. So it's so important for you as a listener, and as you watching this video, for you to find those triggers in your body and also be tuned. Don't let yourself go for days or weeks in that state where it eventually, because it's all biochemistry and all transfer, and I'm not a medic, but I also read a lot about this. It's fascinating. It can actually, the stress cause real illnesses,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. There are many studies that link, horrendous diseases to long-term stress.
Mm-hmm.
People do have limits, physical, emotional, and mental limits.
Yes.
And you do yourself a big favor when you know when you're getting near that limit,
Mm-hmm.
and find a way to extract yourself from it. Again, as when I coach people, I make sure that when we're talking about a really difficult discussion, um, or you people say, I lost it today. I lost it today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so number one, realize you're human and forgive yourself.
Yes.
That's the first thing. Calm yourself down, think it through, think about what, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
the triggers that set a series of physiological, mental, and emotional uh, responses.
Yes.
Find that. I mean, for some of us, and let me tell you, I have a lot of triggers. So uh, there are triggers that once we become aware of them, we can arm ourselves with
Mm-hmm.
some kind of response.
Yes.
Something I've learned to do recently, truthfully, and I know I've used this over years, but I've become aware of using questions to slow the process. And questions that I
Mm-hmm.
might ask out loud, or
Mm-hmm.
questions that I might ask myself. So the other day, I was in a situation and I asked myself the question, do you really feel a threat in this situation? Do you feel you will be harmed? If you do, Pat, what kind of harm are you thinking about? Is it physical, social,
Mm-hmm.
emotional, financial.
Mm-hmm.
What is the threat that is really kind of revving you up? Can you do something about it? Can you certainly you can calm yourself down about it? And I ask this big question: is this real? Is this threat real?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I making it up?
Yes.
Or have I let my imagination? As a matter of fact, my husband and I were just talking about in this time. He was talking before, oh, I've got a little cough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where does the mind go? To the worst
Yeah.
possible case.
Yeah. Right away. Right away.
And we need to, you got a little, pain in your shoulder, a pain in the back. No, it's probably not a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there's one way to figure that out, and that is to calm yourself down. If you still feel it, call 911.
Yes.
And for us on an emotional basis, our 911 may be a friend, may
Mm-hmm.
be a counselor, may
Yes.
be a support group.
Mm-hmm.
But all of us have a 911 that we can reach out and ask for help from. See, so we have methods to the madness,
Mm-hmm.
and we one of the things I like to do is make sure that people don't take it to the extreme, because that only stirs up more hormones, more fears, more negative things,
Yes.
and we are not serving ourselves that way.
Yeah. I I agree. I agree with you. Um, these are all so many nuggets of wisdom, Pat, that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much. And I want to shout out to, we have a couple people that put some comments. We have Elaine. I know Elaine is from UK.
Mhm.
She's a speaker. She says, nice one, enjoyed, and she has to go. So good, was good to see you here, Elaine. And then Jamie also said, hi, John and Pat. Cheers from Minnesota. Hello, Jamie. We're so excited that you are here tuning in with us. And Pat, I would love for you to share some resources that you have available. Of course, if anybody's interested of our viewers to learn more and to get some coaching and some really fascinating support, please reach out to Pat directly. She is a phenomenal coach, and you will learn so much, and you will get so much benefit. And I would love for you, Pat, to share some resources with our viewers. I know you have some books that you've published also, and I've read one of those. It was good.
Well, yes, I do have two books. The first one that I wrote is called Cool Change. Cool Change is how do you, as a leader, how do you master and strengthen your emotions to lead? And that's something that this book is all about, tried and true things, everything
Mm-hmm.
from reflecting on what just happened to asking for help. And then the other one that just came out in September
Mm-hmm.
is 101 Ways to Grow an Awesome and, underscore this word, resilient team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Last year, I got certified as a resilience and thriving coach by the National Wellness Institute. And I know that that's an integral part of dealing with emotions, is
Mm-hmm.
knowing what tools and what things in our world help us to remain resilient in trying
Yes.
times.
Yes. This is wonderful. I
And
do
look
need
at
to
my
get a
website too.
I do need to get a second book from you, Pat, sometime soon. I did read the first one; it was wonderful. I've had a lot of underline, um, uh, sentences and some takeaways from it. So it was wonderful. And I know you do offer some coaching as well. You have a one-on-one coaching, and you also provide some webinars and some trainings to companies, right?
Correct. Yes, I definitely do. My audience, fortunately, is worldwide. yo soy bilingüe. So I can talk, I can teach and talk in two languages. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I like to bring what I've learned to people who are studying
Mhm.
in the world of emotional intelligence. I was one of the original members of the Society of Emotional Intelligence that was founded here in the United States, and now I think it's in like 20 countries. So and there's one in the UK. So your UK friend might find that useful. And there are a number of, well, one of the things that I do every quarter is I offer a package of the emotional intelligence assessment and an hour of my coaching.
Mhm.
So I always offer that because that's something people can use. If they don't have to take me for a long time as their coach, but maybe just a little more awareness would help them using a formal instrument like the EQI 2.0.
Yes. Yes, well, this is wonderful resources, Padam. I am so grateful that we have this opportunity to connect here on live LinkedIn video, and thank you so much for sharing amazing wisdom and also actionable tactics and steps and tips that our listeners can take to be more empowered, to feel more emotionally aware and gain this strength to realize that we all have the control and we can control and be more tuned in with how our body reacts and how what we feel and take steps to move us forward toward the success. Thank you so much, Pat.
You're very welcome.
You have
Thank
a great
you.
great weekend and we'll see each other soon. Bye.